Welcome back. Let's now talk about code of conduct. We have a bureau to that effect, and the chairman joins us on the program. Dr. Abdullahi Bello is the chairman of the Code of Conduct Bureau. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Chairman, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Okay, thank you very much for having me.
All right, Chairman, maybe you walk us through some of the efforts so far. I took my time to look through your website, and when I hope I can get to it and my device will allow me. When I got to asset declaration and what is required of public servants and all of that, we're going to ask you some specific questions, but maybe broadly speaking, when I look at the fact that who is to declare, what they are to declare, what is to be investigated after they leave office, I'm asking myself a simple question. I'm sure if Nigerians go to that place, they'll ask a similar question. Is the CCB really efficient?
Okay, thank you very much. Like you mentioned, asset declaration is for all public servants, right from the president down to the lowest level of officers that we have in the country. They are supposed to declare all their assets and all their liabilities at the beginning of the term and then at the end of the term. For civil servants, they are supposed to declare it after every 4 years. So essentially, that's what they are supposed to do. Like you mentioned, it's very effective. It's one of the most effective ways for you to prevent corruption. Because if a public servant knows that he's going to declare his asset at the beginning of his term, and then we are going to check and find out whether what he's saying is the truth or not, then he might not commit any fraud or corruption. So in essence, it's a preventive measure to make sure all public servants are serving you, the public, not themselves. Essentially, that's what asset declaration is all about. And when you said whether it's effective or not, I joined the CCB in October, and what I'm trying to do, I want to be proactive. By proactive, what we mean is that we're going to look at the declaration at the beginning of the period and also at the end of the period. Then we compare the increase in your net worth between the time that you started and then the time you ended, and see if the increase can be accounted for from your known sources of income. If it can be accounted for, then we don't have any problem with you. But then if there is some excess that you cannot account for from your known sources of income, then it means it's from unknown sources, which likely is going to be illegal. Therefore, we are going to investigate the illegal sources, and then you are going to come and explain to us how you got the money to acquire those assets. In CCB, there is a new slogan that we are going to be broadcasting, advertising. You have to explain where you get the money, but if you cannot explain, then you have to forfeit those as federal government. And that is a very good deterrent for people coming into office and then stealing money, buying properties all over the place. So if you know that you are not going to benefit from the proceeds of your crime, why do it in the first place? I think CCB is the missing link in anti-corruption drive. But once we are doing this perfectly well, I can assure you that we are going to reduce the prevalence of corruption in Nigeria.
Well, Dr. Bello, that's cheery to hear. And for a lot of people, when they hear the CCB, rightly so, they think of asset declaration. But the Code of Conduct Bureau is not just about asset declaration. As the name implies, code of conduct. The job is to maintain high standards of public morality and accountability in governance business by ensuring that public officers adhere to the code of conduct outlined in the Constitution. And, you know, we just had a conversation before you came on about what played out at the Ikeja Electric, seeing, the Air Force now, knocking down doors, just invading Gestapo style. And I was just looking through the code, and I saw Code 9 that speaks about a public officer shall not do or direct to be done in abuse of office any act prejudicial to the rights of any other person, knowing that such act is unlawful or contrary to any government policy. And, I was looking through the explainer just to understand what this means. And I saw here, using sirens, police, or any paramilitary or military escort uniform or rifle to intimidate other persons. Now, those are practical examples of specific actions which amount to abuse of office. So when you see that scenario playing out, what does the code say, and what, more importantly, does the code prescribe to be done in that scenario?
So like you mentioned, that code is about abuse.
Well, we'll try to get connection with Dr. Bello, because this is a very important conversation, at least part of the conversation. So Nigerians understand the work of the Code of Conduct Bureau when it pertains to not just asset declaration, but the conduct of public officers. Dr. Bello, I understand you're back now, so please can you start your response again so we don't miss any part of it?
So what you mentioned is about, the code is about abuse of office. So by abuse of office, what you mean is that you are using your position as a public servant, and then you are violating the right of another person, and then you are doing it unlawfully. So once those three criteria are available, then you have violated your right, you have abused your office. So what the public need to do is that they should send a petition to us, and then we'll investigate it. First, we need to understand whether you are using your office, and then whether you are violating the right of another person, then whether you are doing it unlawfully. So once those three conditions are met, then we can investigate that, and then send the case to CCT after investigation. So I advise the public, once your right is being violated, you can send it to us, and then we can investigate.
So in this scenario that we've seen play out now, what are the possible punitive measures that the law, or at least the Code of Conduct, prescribes for this? Because for a lot of people, the evidence is quite clear. We've shown the CCTV footage. It's been on for almost 2 weeks now, but there's been no response whatsoever. So what does the law prescribe as punitive measures for those who abuse their office? And really, isn't this enough notice for the CCB to take this up? Because it's an issue that is already in the public space.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't want to...
Oh, yeah. So I wish you can get the chairman back. One of the things as soon as we reestablish connection with the chairman, we will... okay, I think he's back. Kylie.
Please go ahead, Dr. Bello.
Okay, like I said, I don't want to comment on a specific issue because I don't have all the facts. So, but in essence, once we establish a case of abuse of office, we send it to CCT. And in the act that we have 3 punishments that can be meted on anybody that breaches the Code of Conduct. We have removal from office, we have banning up to 10 years, and then we have forfeiture of acts, and then any other punishment that the CCT might impose on that public servant. So at CCB, what we do is that we collect the petition, or we do maybe intelligence, like you mentioned, and then we investigate it thoroughly, and then we send it to CCT, and then we present our case. If the person is convicted, then CCT will deliver the judgment and then the punishment for that. So those are the 3 punishments that we have at CCT, but then the judge can also prescribe other punishments. So that's what I want to say about that.
In the same breath, sir, what would be provided for in the code for the reports of such conduct, and how would the Code of Conduct, take it up? Besides what we're seeing playing out at the office of Ikeja Electric, the nation has been held spellbound with conversations bordering around, sexual harassment allegations leveled against the Senate President by one member of the institution. And, the code says here, any officer, a public officer shall use the best efforts to avoid being in a situation. Will that be the particular one? No, that's not the one I wanted to use. An officer using his position to influence the award or awarding a contract to himself. Okay, that will be the first one, rather. pardon me, a public officer shall use the best efforts to avoid being in a situation where the officer's personal interests conflict with or appear to conflict with his or her official duties. So would you be requiring such reports to be brought before the CCB, to act on it such that we can, protect the institutions, in the Federal Republic of Nigeria?
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, once we receive, what you are saying is about conflict of interest. So once you have any allegation of conflict of interest on any public servant, what you can do as a public, as part of your duties as a citizen of Nigeria, is to send that report to the CCB. And once we look at it, we look at the actual case that you have, and then we investigate it. And we investigate it thoroughly. And like I mentioned, we have a department called Investigation and Intelligence and Monitoring Department. Their duty is solely for them to investigate any breach of code of conduct, not only asset declaration, not only abuse of office, not only conflict of interest. We have bribery and corruption. We have so many codes that we have. So they will look at it. We have, for each of the codes that we have points of proof. So we have to look at the evidence first, whether you're a public servant. For example, if you're talking about abuse of office, whether you're a public servant, whether you are using your position, whether you are doing it against the right of another person, and then whether you are doing it unlawfully. So once we can establish those 4 facts, then we have a case against you. But if you cannot establish those, then we don't have a case against you. For conflict of interest, again, we look at it, whether you are using your own personal, sorry?
Does the Bureau need to wait until petitions are brought before it? I mean, the manner in which the conversations were held were sort of embarrassing, and it impacted on an institution. Isn't there any provision in the code that mandates the Bureau to provide a form of intervention in order to uphold the ethics of public institutions?
So we don't have to wait for a petition. We can be proactive. I think I mentioned it earlier. That's what you are trying to do at CCB right now. We don't need to have a petition for us to start an investigation. While we can have a case and intelligence, and then we can convince ourselves that it's a genuine case, and then there is evidence to support the allegation, then we can start doing it. But remember that we have around 4.5 to 5 million public servants in Nigeria. So the amount and the number of public servants under our responsibility is huge. The resources for us to do all these things is very huge. So we are trying to utilize our resources to make sure that we are investigating and we are prioritizing our cases so that we'll be able to utilize the resources we have. So if you look at asset declaration, like you mentioned, one of the core mandates of the Bureau, what we are supposed to do is that for each public servant, we have to collect the asset declaration. We also have to go and verify it. What do you mean by verification? We do document verification to make sure that documents are genuine. We also do physical verification. We have to go to individual states, individual assets, to make sure that you said you own this house. Yes, it's mine. What is the evidence that you own this house? Do you have proof of ownership? Do you have a receipt? Do you have an agreement? So it's a very huge task that we have at CCB. And from the number of staff that we have, we are less than 1,000 staff at CCB, but we are not complaining because this government has been trying to support us, has supported us a lot. CCB before, the budgetary allocation for CCB was meager. Well, this present government has increased our budget substantially, and we are going to utilize the allocation that we have to make sure that we are doing what we are supposed to do. So it's not an excuse, but then we have a lot of things to do, and then we are trying to build capacity. Right now, in the CCB, what we are trying to do is that when I came in, I decided to create a unit called Financial Investigation and Forensic Accounting Unit. I did an internal advertisement where I selected staff in the Bureau with certain qualities and certain qualifications. They are going to form the bulk of that unit, and we are going to use them, we are going to train them, and they are going to be investigating so many cases that we have.
All right, Mr. Bello.
But like I said, it's not only about petitions. We also work on intelligence. We also work on so many other things that we have.
All right, Mr. Bello, it is the reason I asked the very first question. Let me read your guidelines in terms of the asset declaration. 2 guidelines. You are to declare only those assets or liabilities you actually own at the material time of filling the form. Do not declare any assets or liabilities you're anticipating to have before actual acquisition. Number 7 says every public officer is to note that it is a requirement of law to declare his assets and liability, 1, on assumption of office at the end of the term, at interval of 4 years for public officers on continuous employment of government with the federal, state, or local, and number 4, at such other intervals as the Bureau may determine from time to time. We've seen people who had no career. We've seen people who, they were not perhaps successful businessmen. Their foray into success was politics. They declared asset. Now, 2 years down the line, 5 years down the line, some even 20, 25 years down the line, they are richer than some states in Nigeria. But they are still, holding sway in certain spaces. So one wonders how effective this law is. If before I come into office, I will declare that I own this, that, and the other, and then we see a lot of people, after they leave office, they've amassed so much wealth, and then they are not facing any trials. So how can that be effective? And I'm sure your mind will be going through a lot of some of these persons we're talking about, present or people that have left government.
Okay, thank you very much. Like I said, I joined the CCB in October. And what I'm trying to do right now is to be proactive. And what do you mean by proactive? It's not enough for us just to collect asset declaration from public servants at the beginning of their term and at the end of the term. What we are going to do right now, this department, this unit I said I created, is for us to look at the increase over the time. And once we can see an increase that you cannot account for it from your own public service salaries and allowances, then immediately we can cause investigation into you. And then you come to us and explain to us how you got the assets. That's what we have started doing. I can tell you now that we are doing several cases. There's a case of a local government chairman that we are doing now. I'm not going to go into the specific of it. We have a lot of assets that we've seen. He has declared his asset, but then we have discovered that he has other assets that he has not declared. We are going to go and ask him, explain to us how he got money to.
What about governors? Mr. Abdullahi, so because we don't have time, what about, we have just 30 seconds, how about governors? Literally every governor should be answering questions.
Yes. I'm coming to that. Right now, again, we have several other top government officials. There is somebody that has declared his asset, and from the face value of it is under declaration. We are also investigating that. Very soon, we are going to start hearing the kind of cases that we are doing when we take them to tribunal. All
right. Dr. Abdullahi Bello, Chairman, Code of Conduct Bureau. Trust me, my colleague and I, we have like a lot of questions to ask you, but we understand we don't have so much time. So you have to promise to come back, because we'll be going from code to code, guideline to guideline, so that you help us provide answers and context so that Nigerians will understand what you're doing. But we must thank you for coming on the program, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm really happy for you to come in. Thank you very much.
All right. Dr. Abdullahi Bello is the chairman of the Code of Conduct Bureau. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll switch gears to another leg of the conversation. Join us again.